This is the letter A. Sound of the letter A. Ah. Point and say. Alligator.
Alligator.
Apple.
Apple.
Axe.
Axe.
Ant.
Ant.
This is the letter B. Sound of the letter B. B. Point and say. Bear.
Bear.
Bird.
Bird.
Bus.
Bus.
Boat.
Boat.
This is the letter C. Sound of the letter C. K. Point and say. Cat.
Cat.
Car.
Car.
Cake.
Cake.
Candy.
Candy.
This is the letter D. Sound of the letter D. D. Point and say. Dog.
Dog.
Duck.
Duck.
Doll.
Doll.
Door.
Door.
This is the letter E. Sound of the letter E. Point and say. Elephant.
Elephant.
Egg.
Egg.
Elf.
Elf. Elk.
This is the letter F. Sound of the letter F. Point and say. Fish.
Fish.
Frog.
Frog.
Flag.
Flag.
Flower.
Flower.
This is the letter G. Sound of the letter G. G. Point and say. Goose.
Goose.
Goat.
Goat.
Gift.
Gift.
Grass.
Grass.
This is the letter H. Sound of the letter H. Point and say. Hen.
Hen.
Horse.
Horse.
Hat.
Hat.
House.
House.
This is the letter I. Sound of the letter I. Point and say. Indian.
Indian.
Igloo.
Igloo.
Ink.
Ink.
Infant.
Infant.
This is the letter J. Sound of the letter J. J. Point and say. Juice.
Juice.
Jam.
Jam.
Jeep.
Jeep.
Jet.
Jet.
This is the letter K. Sound of the letter K. K. Point and say. kite,
Kite.
kangaroo,
Kangaroo.
key,
Key.
king.
King.
This is the letter L. Sound of the letter L. L. Point and say. L, lion.
Lion.
L, lamp.
Lamp.
L, leaf.
Leaf.
L, lollipop.
Lollipop.
This is the letter M. Sound of the letter M. M. Point and say. Moon.
Moon.
Monkey.
Monkey.
Milk.
Milk.
Mouse.
Mouse.
This is the letter N. Sound of the letter N. N. Point and say. Nurse.
Nurse.
Nest.
Nest.
Net.
Net.
Nose.
Nose.
This is the letter O. Sound of the letter O. Ah. Point and say. Octopus.
Octopus.
Ox.
Ox.
Otter.
Otter.
Onion.
Onion.
This is the letter P. Sound of the letter P. P. Point and say. Pig.
Pig.
Panda.
Panda.
Pear.
Pear.
Puppy.
Puppy.
This is the letter Q. Sound of the letter Q. Qu. Point and say. Queen.
Queen.
Quilt.
Quilt.
Quiet.
Quiet.
Quack.
Quack.
This is the letter R. Sound of the letter R. R. Point and say. Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Robot.
Robot.
Rain.
Rain.
Rainbow.
Rainbow.
This is the letter S. Sound of the letter S. S. Point and say. Sun.
Sun.
Snake.
Snake.
Swan.
Swan.
Seal.
Seal.
This is the letter T. Sound of the letter T. T. Point and say. Turtle.
Turtle.
Tiger.
Tiger.
Truck.
Truck.
Train.
Train.
This is the letter U. Sound of the letter U. Point and say. Umbrella.
Umbrella.
Underwear.
Underwear.
upset.
Upset.
Up.
Up.
This is the letter V. Sound of the letter V. V. Point and say. Van.
Van.
Violin.
Violin.
Vase.
Vase.
Vest.
Vest.
This is the letter W. Sound of the letter W. W. Point and say. Window.
Window.
Witch.
Witch.
Watch.
Watch.
Well.
Well.
This is the letter X. Sound of the letter X. X. Point and say. Fox.
Fox.
Box.
Box.
Ox.
Ox.
Axe. This is the letter Y. Sound of the letter Y. Y. Point and say. Yo-yo.
Yo-yo.
Yarn.
Yarn.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yam.
Yam.
This is the letter Z. Sound of the letter Z. Z. Point and say. Zebra.
Zebra.
Zoo.
Zoo.
Zero.
Zero.
Zipper.
Zipper.